Welcome to the Calm Nights, Strong Days podcast. I'm your host, Andy Clark. We are diving today into the unspoken challenges of parenting kids with big emotions. This came up the other day because I was having a conversation with a friend um, whose child as well is neurodiverse. And we're talking about how isolating it is, how she's so grateful that she has me to talk to about this stuff because she doesn't know anybody else who around her in her world to talk to. And I know this was definitely me when I was trying to figure out what's going on with my son. What is happening? I mean, I myself didn't understand it, that I can't expect, family, friends, neighbors, schoolmates, parents to understand it if I'm not even understanding it myself. And it can be so isolating, like so isolating. And so that's what I really wanted to dive into today, is to let you know that there are so many kids out there like yours, and you're not alone in this. So of anything that comes out of today, I am here to tell you that you are not alone and you are a great parent with everything that you're doing. You may be shaking your head and you may be saying, no, I'm not. And hopefully by the end of this episode, you'll realize that you are a phenomenal parent and your child is so lucky to have you for a parent. So, where I want to start with this is that I find it fascinating now that I'm on this other side, that we kind of expect as a society that we should know what to do in a parenting, like that we should know how to parent. And I recall with my first child, learning, I'm like, okay, yeah, this learning curve, first child, whatever. But when my second came, I'm like, oh, I'm going to have this in the bag. I know what I'm doing. Totally different child. Their needs were different. What suited them was different. What they liked was different. It was so different. And then you mix in like different parenting styles. And so parenting in itself is hard. We're not really ever taught how to parent. Well, we aren't. We may have nieces and nephews that we have watched through the years, or, but until you actually become a parent and it's a 24/7 thing and you're in charge of all the, the, everything that goes on with it, all of the responsibilities, the game changes. And every generation as well is different, right? Our generation right now has screens and AI, and the way that kids are learning and all the things that are out there are different than my generation, right? So it's just every single generation has different ways of doing things and learning that as well, and just safety in society, all of these things that the game keeps changing as well. The game keeps evolving, the game keeps changing. There's these new stressors out there, right? More and more people are becoming more sensitive to smells and scents because there are more synthetic fragrances and toxins out there than there used to be. More people are having, like, there's just so many different stressors out there, and they really are affecting our kids. They're affecting us. I mean, shoot, we struggle to keep ourselves calm all the time. We struggle to manage everything that's on our plate all the time. That, you know, it's that kids can't be expected to do it either. And we have to be able to learn how to navigate as life keeps evolving, as things keep changing. We need to have to learn how to navigate and evolve parenting with that as well. And then we add into that. So that's just parenting any kids. Then we add into a child that's different, a child that maybe is more sensitive, that has anxiety, that has like anger and like lashes out. We may have a child that thinks differently, a child that learns differently, that speaks differently, that needs to be handled, like spoke to and worked with differently. And throwing that in is like a whole other world. And it's truly something that nobody can understand unless you're living in it. And I know I used to judge all the time. I used to see in public, a kid acting up. And I'd be like, why is that parent not keeping them in line? Why is that kid yelling? Why is that kid misbehaving, doing this or that? And I'm so embarrassed now. That being said, there still are moments that I have out where I have to catch myself, where I see somebody doing something. And because it is not the way that my child reacts or anything that any of his friends or anything that I've been exposed to, because it's different, my instant thing is to judge. That's with so many of us. It's like, well, why can't they manage that kid right now? And I have to step back and go, whoa, check yourself. You don't know their story. You don't know what that parent has been through. You don't know what that child's been through. You don't know what their brain is thinking, how they're wired, what helps them, what doesn't. The thing that you do know is that everyone is doing the best that they can. And I used to not agree with this statement because I used to think, well, what about the parents that are, I want to be careful what I say. Let's say even like drinking too much around. But I mean, what is that? See, these are the things. These are all judgments, right? These are all judgments. Somebody who, like, everybody truly is doing the best that they can. And I want to be so cautious what I'm saying because they're all judgments. What you're feeding a kid, what you're doing yourself, how you're like I will tell you, because my son has always needed to be structured, for the longest time, I would see people bringing their neighbors bringing their kids home like really late, like after my kids were way in bed, like for hours, or feeding them like freezies or sugar or popsicles like in the evening. And I'd be like, how's that kid going to go to sleep? And I used to judge. The thing is that those kids may be totally going to bed perfectly fine, or those parents are in a different stage of where their priorities are at as far as nutrition goes. I've been coaching nutrition for 30 years, so my nutrition is going to be very different. And I have major food sensitivities that affect my feelings, my health, my abilities, as far as thinking, as far as my moods go, that I'm very, 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 very cognizant of it and sensitive to it. But other people aren't, because it may not affect them at all. And the thing is every single person out there is doing their best. We've all been given different skills growing up from our parents. And then the way that society is adapting and changing, we have to learn how to adapt and change with it. Like, there's just so much that every single person is truly trying their best. And since I started, I stepped back and I was like, okay, in certain situations, I can look and think, well, I might handle that different. Like, but why does it have to be my way? Right. And so, anyways, I'm going off on a tangent. Sorry. The thing with this is that everybody's doing their best. They're doing their best based on their knowledge, their skills, their capacities, their experiences, their lived experiences, their upbringing. We're all doing the best that we can. We are all doing the best that we can. And so I've had to really take that step back and see that, like, just to realize, like, you are a good parent. The problem truly is that there really isn't enough support. There's enough knowledge in the mainstream, in the schools, in society about our kids, about kids who are different, about kids who do react to certain foods, about kids who, need structure, about kids who don't like change, about kids who can't focus on anything, about kids who, can get super excited super fast, kids that can get major anxiety, kids that struggle with perfectionism, kids that struggle with reasoning skills or impulsivity, like a lot of those executive functioning things. Like, there are so many things that are going on with our kids. and we are doing the best that we can with the knowledge that we have. So I'm going to let you know, like, the first thing that helped me, as far as, first off, just feeling seen, feeling like, oh my God, I'm not the only one whose child is struggling like this, was joining Facebook groups. So I have a Facebook group. The link is below, which is for kids with big emotions. It's all the stuff that I speak of. There's other groups as well. So the groups that helped me the most was, I was in gifted and 2E groups. 2E is twice exceptional. So, and I was also in dysgraphia groups because my son has a diagnosis of dysgraphia. So you may be in dyslexia. I'm also in an auditory processing group because he has auditory processing, dysgraphia, and is 2E gifted. So being in these groups and starting to see, oh my God, my kid's struggling in this. Oh, my kid can't stay, the full day in school, or like they're not able to stay on task, or they're, having outbursts in school, or their anxiety is through the roof, or, all kinds of things. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not alone. So being in these groups was amazing. So just let me tell you what 2E is. 2E is called twice exceptional. So this is something I had no idea about when I started this as well, is that our schoolings, so you may have a child that is brilliant in certain things. They may lack certain social skills. They may have ADHD. They may have nothing that has been diagnosed at all. But when they go and do the school testing, and you're pretty sure, you're like, oh, my kid's going to get into gifted, right? This was me with my second child, because my first child got into gifted. And I'm like, well, my second child's way ahead of him in a lot of subjects. And he was 99.9% in every subject for kids his age in Canada. But when they did the second testing, the spatial testing, he was a couple percents below. So he didn't get into the gifted program by the schooling system, which is a whole other episode in its own, as to if you think your child is gifted and they didn't get into the gifted program. The odds are they're 2E, twice exceptional, because our school tests just for, average gifted. But the higher that you go above, the more standard deviations that you go above the average child, and then you get the first deviation of gifted, the higher you go, second, third, fourth, the more that there are other lagging skills that child needs help with. Executive functioning skills are usually in there. Well, they are. There's ADHD, auditory processing, dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia. There's, what was the other one I was thinking? Autism, all of these things. So you can get these kids that are friggin' brilliant and can dive deep into histories. We used to have this autistic boy across the street who dive into history. He's like, which history do you want? And he would go into like crazy histories from all around the world, knew them all, knew all the people, knew all the players, knew all the dates, knew everything. It was unbelievable. And he could do that with like chemistry and geology and whatever subject he was diving deep into at more than like a college level, which was crazy. But he struggled to, with social skills and struggled that way. Like, so it's fascinating. Struggled with change, with transitions. So the higher that you go on that gifted scale of really understanding and knowing things, the more there are lagging skills. You may have a child that says things that are true, but doesn't realize that they could be hurtful, or not really taken the way that the person is meaning them to be. And, and you're like, my child's not going to have friends if they keep this up. That's an executive functioning skill, but this may be a child that is so smart academically but needs to work on those executive functioning struggles, right? So there's so many different things when we're diving into these neurodiverse kids. So I'm in like neurodiverse groups, 2E groups, gifted groups. And it's just fascinating where you're like, I am not alone, right? And that's my group as well, my Facebook group. It's where you will see I'm not alone. My child, there's a reason why my child is doing these things, and there's ways that I could be helping my child. And it's only once I started really seeing this and seeing people from all over North America. There's some in from other countries in these Facebook groups. And I realized that everywhere lacked support and understanding. There are the odd schools, there are the odd teacher that understands executive functioning. The executive functioning course that I'm doing through Tara Sumner, there are teachers in it. Um, and it is phenomenal because they're like, oh, these are the things I can be doing in my classroom. This is how I can be helping these kids. And quite often with these kids, academically, they are so ahead that they're bored, but what they need is somebody who in kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2 understands executive functioning and start helping those kids with that. Because those are quite often the skills that our kids are struggling in and losing their cool over, either anxiety or anger, frustrations, all of those things. So that's when I realized it's really time to start thinking outside the box. Now, in order to think outside the box, which I have done my entire life, and it has created so many traumas in me, not in a rebellious way at all. I'm an entrepreneur. And as an entrepreneur, we just always have these great ideas and, hey, I want to do this. Or, like I kind of, I don't believe in everything with our school system, because I do truly believe that society has evolved so much that what they used to teach, the core subjects, made sense years and years ago, right? It made sense. And school was created as well for kids to have somewhere to go when parents were really working the farms and working their land and doing all of that. Now they've evolved. And the way that kids think, the way that kids learn now is different, neurodiverse or not neurodiverse. Um, and there's just so much out there now that is so different. And there's so many more subjects and so many more cool things that we can learn. And if a child starts learning after going in their passions and diving down these rabbit holes of something that they really like and learn that they can really go after their passions from a young age, oh my gosh, where this world could be is amazing. But that's me thinking outside the box. And that's me. And I do know as well that not everyone can take their kids out of school, because both parents do work out of the house 9 to 5, or even work in the house 9 to 5, and can't do what I did, where I moved down to part-time in my business in order to be able to homeschool, which we all work 9 to 12, and the afternoons are our active time. And then sometimes I go back into the office. So it really is important to think outside the box. And I struggled because my parents weren't out of the box thinkers per se. And I think it scared them a lot of the times, the ideas I had or things I wanted to do, and so there were some traumas that were created from that, which I've worked through, right? So this is where we need to really work on ourselves first. If we are going to have kids that are neurodiverse, kids that are different, kids that think outside the box, and it can be isolating once we start advocating for them, finding out what they need and working all towards that. It is really important to work on ourselves as well. I did therapy for years, which is what got me into now practicing IFS therapy, where I've like studied it and done all these courses. I've trained for years in IFS therapy now. And it's been fascinating, because that was because of my journey of actually going to therapy myself and working through a lot of my stuff. There's also situations as well where one person is kind of denying that their child needs help. They think, oh, they'll be okay. Or in society, we feel that, they'll just have to learn. They'll have to learn the hard way. They have to, so what if they hate school and are really struggling with it? And, but they're absolutely brilliant when they're at home and doing other things. They have to learn to toughen up, and there are a lot of those views as well. And sometimes one of the parents in the relationship is like that. And that's where I think it's really important to work on ourselves if our partner is like that. And really, sorry, grab some water. And it really is fascinating. I will tell you that through a lot of what I do with my kids, my husband sees the difference in the kids. He sees the difference in their behavior and how they're changing, that he follows my lead a lot more now, and he's starting to read more books and stuff. I mean, I've been studying it for years and years. And I'd say in the last 6 months, he has consumed more information on things to do, like the co-regulation handbook, the declarative language handbook. He's read those. He's gone through different like sheets and courses. In this executive functioning course that I'm in, he actually would like the link for it to start watching the videos. I've been working on it for years, and he's seen through me the changes in our kids, that he's come on board and he's changed his thoughts and ideas, which are instilled in all of us. I mean, shoot, like I said, I judged on how kids should be disciplined, how we should be working with kids in order to help them with their emotions, with the way that they think, with their focus, with staying on task, all of those things. So working on yourself. I mean, there's going to always be biases and beliefs in society, and we need to really work on our past traumas. The odds are that there are things from our childhood that memories come up because of what our child is experiencing. And that is because quite often one or both parents are also neurodiverse a little bit. They have bits and pieces in them, and they may have struggled at certain points in their school year, in their life as well. And so working through those things to realize that there's nothing wrong with you, that you are actually an amazing person with amazing traits. And if you've learned to like go where your brain goes and learn where your skills like thrive. I know for me, I can go deep dives into learning and executing information to be coaching and helping people. Like that is so my superpower. And once I've learned that and accepted it, that I may go down deeper dives than most people, and that's okay. But understanding that not everybody does. So not everybody wants me talking about all of the stuff I'm learning and the deep dives I'm going through. So it's taken a while for me to learn as well how to navigate myself to, I'm not going to say fit in, because I love being me and I love being different. And I've had to work to be that, be okay with that. But to kind of like learn how to navigate the world a little bit better, so that because I used to expect everybody should be the same as me. Everybody should organize the way that I organize. Everybody should have thoughts the same way. They should plan and organize and do things the same way that I do them. And I'm realizing that they don't. And I've had to really work through all of that myself in order to be okay with that. Like where you were misunderstood as a child, did somebody advocate for you? Or did you have to work your way through the system and just figure it out on your own? We have to work through that on our own, on ourselves, in order to be better to help our kids. And it does suck. It does suck at times where we know our child does, like, and different kids, not everyone I'm speaking to will be like this. Some kids need to be on a structured schedule. It's just what they need to help with their anxiety and their calmness while you're working on the executive functioning skills in order to help them with transitions and with change and being okay without having a structured schedule. They may be somebody who, overstimulated by noise or people or sounds and all of that. So you may not be able to go to later family dinners or family outings. You may not be able to join neighbors in certain things, or certain things out with neighbors that might be too loud. Or your child may want to just sit and read books on the porch while all the kids are playing and kicking balls out front. And all that's okay, right? We don't need to over explain. You will find your people. Go into these groups. I have met people from all over the world that I just chat with on a regular basis. I had one mom just messaged out to me one day, is like, because of ways that I was commenting on posts, and she's like, can we talk? I need somebody to connect with. And we did, because we were both lonely and feeling so isolated, and we can both, and her child is extroverted. And my child does not like new things, new change, new stimulus, new people. So it's been fascinating seeing how different our children are, but how lonely both of us are as well, and how misunderstood we feel. So find your people, work on yourself. It's not easy, but just know that you aren't alone anymore. I've got you. We've got you in the Facebook group. Join my group, join the other groups. Search around until you find the group that best fits you. Find your people, reach out to them, and really get to know them. Okay. You aren't alone in this anymore. I've got your back. Thank you for listening. I so appreciate that you are here and that you made it to the end. I am speaking to a screen. It's hard to know what you're thinking, how you are. Feel free to email me. My email's in the show notes, or book a call. I have these 30-minute calls that you can book and just chat with me. Let me know what you like about this podcast. What's resonating with you? What am I missing? Tell me about your child. Let me know what your child's like so that I can, you do more episodes that are actually going to serve you with where your challenges are. A lot of what I speak of are things that come up between friends of my kids, that from neurodiverse kids, my life. They come up from coaching with the kids that I coach, parents that I coach, and things from the Facebook group. So let me know. I'd love to be able to include you in what I am speaking about as well. Also, come and join our group, Facebook group. All of those links are down below in the show notes. Let me know what's working for you and where I can be improving. And I'll see you in the next episode.